it's been a bit since I've done a fish room tour. I get a lot of requests for one. Not a lot has changed, but we're going to use just the Guppy Mansion as a short example. I have some vacation coming up. As of you guys watching this video releases 1 week before Christmas, so it's Guppy Mansion. We'll do some B-roll, don't worry, you'll be able to see it better. I know it's a little dark behind me right now, but basically, this has been kind of in let it do its thing mode. And in letting it do its thing, there's a lot of overgrowth. Right? You can see these crypts behind me, they're huge, and that's without the B-roll. There's this like spiral of stuff here. What you can't see is there's a ton of floating plants. Some plants are not doing so well, and behind my giant head is the massive amount of Java Fern Windelov that has now really overgrown itself and needs to be cut back, reattached to some new driftwood, because the driftwood that was originally in this tank when I put it together has basically deteriorated. It's cholla wood, it falls apart a lot faster than other woods. So I've got some amazing pieces of cholla wood that I'm going to use as my kind of new anchors, and they're a lot thicker and chunkier, so they'll last a little bit longer. But the way you see this tank now is going to change. But it's always changed. It's always evolved. One thing that has been prevalent in this tank, other than, of course, my favorite guppy, is letting nature do its thing. Now, there's only a limited amount of CO2 in this tank. I do about 3 bubbles a second in this 140-gallon acrylic aquarium. There's quite a large number of guppies in this thing. I mean, you can even just see over my shoulder, not to mention in B-roll, how many are swarming around. There's a lot. These are my babies, and I love them. And, whenever you buy these guppies from Redfish Bluefish, they're quite literally direct out of this tank. So, what, why, when, where, all that kind of stuff, right? We've got a lot of plants. We'll talk about them. And then, what I'm going to do. So, the really tall crypts in the middle of the tank right now are Crypt Sri Lanka. There's also some Crypt Pygmaea that you can't really see, kind of hidden in there. There's some Petchai pink toward the front, but it's not getting quite enough light and CO2 in order to get that pink color. So one of the things that I need to do is I need to add another light. One Fluval 3.0 plant is great for providing like low and medium light in a majority of the tank, and very low or basically shade in portions of the tank, but getting enough light to get some of the optimal colors is not what's happening. And right now, the secondary filter that would move my CO2 in this tank is down. I need to redo the plumbing for it, because the plumbing just over time has taken its abuse. It's kind of got kinked up because it's vinyl tubing. I have to get new tubing in there. Now, that might not happen right away. I have a little bit of vacation time coming up. That's why I'm going to do some of the changes to this tank and a few other things around the house. But basically, the system needs some updates. There's this beautiful bit of a lily called Santarum. So this is Nymphaea gardneriana Santarum. And that particular lily spreads by runner and can be trained to be kept short. But as you can see here, it's quite tall. And part of that is just because I haven't been actively keeping up with it, and it's not direct under the brightest light. If I move where this is planted and give it the best light, it will stay quite a lot shorter. It's a really cool plant. If you can ever find it, I highly encourage keeping it. It's just super neat. What else we got here? There's a mess of Java moss that's in this thing. It's grown out over time. There's a Crypt Wendetii Florida Sunset. And then there's also a stem that's kind of mixed in there, which is a Ludwigia repens cross arcuata. That's just super cool. And then there's just some generic Wendetii red toward the very, very back of the tank, back behind the Java Fern, which is kind of hard to see at this point. There's also a small amount of Crypt Nurii Pahang mutated, which is a specific version of the Nuri strain that gets a little bit bigger and taller. It doesn't lay down as flat as some of the other Nuri, so unlike, say, the Running River tank, this stuff actually grows kind of tall. It's not in the best of health because it got really shaded out, so shaded out that it wasn't getting enough light at all. It needs low light, but some light. It was just getting completely shaded. So we've got to kind of expose that, and that's what a lot of the changes in this tank are going to be. So, am I missing anything? Well, there's a small amount of Trident Java Fern in here too, but it's really, really tiny. It was like a little accent piece that I had, and it's the wind of love just like took over in this thing. So the big thing is we're gonna put some new wood in here. We're gonna get rid of a large mass of plants in the sense of the excess Java Fern that's in not as great health. We're gonna kind of restart it and let it regrow in. And once it does that, it's gonna have its own character and shape, kind of like how it took over this tank at first. It's going to get a new opportunity to do that in a different way. We're going to move some plants around, make some space, help some stuff get some better light. But for the most part, the tank in general will stay very similar. There's going to be a mass of this beautiful tall Crypt Sri Lanka, stuff like that. That's not going to change. But you might say, all right, Bentley, show us the change in this video. Nah, I'll show it a little bit. I want to split this in two on purpose. I want this video to be short. I just want to talk about how basically this tank has a story, and that story involves a lot of people. And that story has become one that is let nature kind of just take over and do its thing. You know, when I got these fish and this tank, It was almost like it was just some kind of thing that fate wanted to happen. As weird as that might sound, but you know, I bought this tank from a friend inside my local club. He gave me an amazing price on it used because he was paring down a lot of the stuff that he was keeping in his own home. It came with the filters, which was an FX6 and an Eheim. It was a 2216, one of the bigger Eheims. And then he let me keep all the substrate. So all this substrate has been going, and granted it's aqua soil, it's ADA Amazonia mixed with some Echo Complete, and there's a small amount of flue ball stratum in here that I've added. But basically, with the exception of the small amount that I added, all of this substrate has been going for over 7 years at this point. And it still provides amazing nutrients for the crypts. Now, I bought this tank, and shortly thereafter is when I got in touch with Leanne. And Leanne, I hope you're watching. Your babies are doing wonderful. They're getting spread all over the place. We're helping get more hobbyists to keep this fish and keep this line alive. But Leanne is this wonderful person who's a couple hours north of me, still in Washington. But her health got to a point where it was hard for her to take care of her babies. She had this tank of these guppies, and they were just doing what guppies do, making lots of babies. And she had got them direct from Luke Roebuck, which is the originator of this line, the blue Hawaiian Pascoe guppy. And, we talked over the phone a little bit, and I told her my story about trying to find these fish, and I've been after them for a couple of years at that point. And it's just one of those things where she felt I was the right person. So I drove out there with my roommate at the time. We bagged up and caught all the fish. There's probably conservative 150 fish. More accurate, probably close to 200 if you include all the babies. It's a lot of fish to transport for not professional transporters, right? And we basically bagged them all up, and it took a while to catch everybody and then get them back down here. And, it was this thing where it was like, I have this huge tank that I'm setting up. What better place to put these guppies than in this big display tank and let them just do their thing, have a big, beautiful tank all to themselves. And ever since then, that's what it's been. I went to a plant auction maybe a month before I had bought all of the plants that I put in this tank initially. And slowly over time, they've gained different plants from other plant auctions inside my club. And some plants I've liked and kept. Other plants I decided I didn't like them in here and I got rid of them. Or they became too much work, like the Pogostamen octopus that used to be in here. I was trimming that 3-foot lengths of that stuff out every couple weeks. It was pretty rough. So things have changed. But this tank is still something that when I come into this fish room, I sit and stare at it for a while. I love these guppies. I love all the foliage that's in there. I love seeing little swarms of babies. And it's all because of a few people that it's now in my hands. And it's my responsibility to let it keep doing its thing. Let guppies keep making babies. Let plants keep growing. Let nature take its course. Now, fish load has changed a little bit. At one point, I had some Siamese algae users in here. I got them out because as they got too big, they got a little aggressive, and that was a no-no, you know? But there's some spotted gara in here that helped do a little bit of cleanup control, along with 2 super red shortfin bristlenose out of a batch that I got from Leanne's son, of all people. So, you know, it's kind of funny that the fish in this tank, 2 different species of fish come from the same family, Leanne and her son, which he regularly watches the channel. You know, and I get to see him every so often. John, you're a great guy. Good. Just want to say hi to you, shout you out a little bit. But, you know, it's been something of a wonder keeping this tank the whole time, and I never lose interest. Even when I let it get overgrown, because I've been working too much and I don't have enough time to, like, really dig my arms into this thing, so I have to get up on, like, a stool and stuff to work on this thing because of how tall it sits. I still sit and I just appreciate it and love it. I always have, and I know I always will. And at some point, these guppies will come out of this tank. But only because I'm going to give them something even better. So, with that being said, watch out for the next video. It might not be next week, it might not be Christmas Day, it might be the week after, but I'm going to shoot a couple videos while I'm on vacation, get you guys some cooler stuff. Yes, I'm going to do a fish room tour. I know, people have been waiting, it's coming. And then, you know, we'll do the update on this tank after I've done all the maintenance. We'll talk about the stuff and where, what, why, what plants change, what plants don't, and all that kind of stuff. Basically, all I'm saying is this tank has gone through a wild ride. And it's going to keep going through that ride. Letting nature do its thing. Letting guppies make babies. Letting plants be plants. That's it. That's all I got. Simple, easy. I just wanted to give you guys something a little simple. Talk about what's coming up. And show you a little B-roll of the Guppy Mansion because you haven't seen it in a while. Right before we do a full, true fish room tour. Well, fish house tour. I got fish tanks all over my house. It's not just one room, but we're going to tour everything that's in the house. I got to do a lot of clean. What you don't know is like right over here to this side of this hand, there's like a tub with some big chunks of cholla wood that I have that were given to me by a friend. There's like a bucket over here for some maintenance and clearing out floating plants because I had way too many. There's like spare substrate bags. The sun that basically behind the camera and down. The sun is sitting empty on the floor over there just because I'm kind of short on space in my house, so stuff is kind of sat in parts of the fish room in like pseudo storage. There's a lot of stuff I got to do. I just got to clean it up, make it look back to a proper fish room, and then give you guys a tour. Not a lot's changed, but at the same time, it doesn't necessarily have to, because it makes me happy. That's it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I doubt you do. It's a little weird. It's a little off kilter, but whatever. This is just kind of a straight me talking to you for a little bit. We'll do the more edited fun stuff starting next week. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and stay awesome.